Okay, now for more on the state of the U.S. job market, let's bring in Edward Yardeni. He is the president of Yardeni Research Inc. Thanks so much for joining. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
The U.S. economy, as we heard, added nearly 140,000 jobs in May, surpassing expectations, and it does show this continued economic resilience despite headwinds. And by headwinds, economists are concerned about the uncertainty that comes with Trump's tariffs. Kind of bring us up to date, your thoughts on this.
Well, for the past 3.5 years, the economy has proven to be remarkably resilient. In 2022, 2023, and 2024, it was resilient in the face of a significant tightening of monetary policy. The Fed funds rate was raised from 0 to 5.25%. It's only at the end of last year that the Fed funds rate was brought down by 100 basis points. But all in all, the economy continued to do well. I mean, Sean, we over the past 3.5 years, we've had the most widely anticipated recession of all times. It's been a no-show. And I think it's going to continue to be a no-show. I think the consumer is resilient because baby boomers are retiring and spending their retirement assets, which are substantial. And corporations are spending a lot on technology because they have to do so to stay competitive.
Well, let me ask you about deceleration, because as the unemployment rate does hold steady, there are concerns that moving forward, deceleration is going to be the buzzword we hear about. Are you concerned about that in this very tenuous labor market?
Well, we saw today that we don't have to have terribly big increases per month in payroll employment. Payroll employment was up 130, 140,000, and that seems to be enough to keep the unemployment rate at 4.2%. 4.2%, I think everybody has to agree, is full employment. I mean, the Federal Reserve keeps talking about its dual mandate, which is to keep the unemployment rate very low. So check that, that's very low. And to stabilize inflation around 2%, and that's where it is right now. So the Fed's really accomplished its dual mandate over the next few months. All this tariff turbulence could have some impact on creating what might look like a stagflationary environment for a couple of months. But I think the economy overall is going to continue to grow and inflation is going to remain moderate.
I think a lot of people are also talking about the effect that DOGE and the U.S. government, the way how that is impacting this labor market, as well as also deportations affecting the labor market. So let's talk about that, because we're starting to see layoffs from the federal government creep in to Labor Department statistics.
Well, you use the word creep in, which means it's not really substantial. It's certainly a lot less than was feared when the DOGE cuts were first being discussed. So all in all, it doesn't look like DOGE is really having much impact on payroll employment or the overall economy. And with regards to the deportations, I think that all these things suggest that the supply of labor is going to be constrained. But I think businesses know that, and I think businesses are going to be under a lot of pressure to do what they're doing, which is to use productivity. To use technology to increase productivity, to augment the ability of their workers to produce more.
Edward, I'd like to get your take on what's going on between the President of the United States and the head of the Fed as well, because just today, Donald Trump called for a drop of a full point, something that's clearly not going to happen. But do you think this political involvement with the Fed, how is that playing out? And even with this information, is there any information out there right now that is going to indicate the Fed is going to act somewhat aggressively throughout this year?
Yeah, I think the Fed's going to remain independent and do what they think they need to do. I think the president basically is covering himself somewhat. If it turns out that we fall into a recession, then he can once again say that the Fed Chair Jerome Powell is too late Powell, that he doesn't respond fast enough to what Trump sees that Powell doesn't see, and the rest of the members of the Federal Monetary Policy Committee don't see. So, no, I think this is going to be noise more than anything substantial. However, next year, Powell will be retiring from his term as chair. He could still stay at the Fed. And it's not going to be that easy for Donald Trump to get his ideal candidate that would obey his orders to lower rates. I don't think he's going to get that kind of option because Fed chair has to be approved by the Senate, and the Fed chair has to have credibility in the financial markets. And oh, by the way, there's when the FOMC meets, the Fed chair clearly is very influential, but there's altogether 19 members on that committee that might, vote or significantly dissent from the kind of easy monetary policy that Trump is proposing.
Yeah, all good points. It's going to be May of 2026 when that term runs out. One final question. Sectors are facing challenges, manufacturing, retail, highlighting this uneasy recovery, if you will, across sectors. Do you expect this is going to continue?
Well, I think we are going to see that the economy responds to all this money that's being spent on onshoring. I mean, manufacturing is coming back to the United States. It wasn't just Trump. Even under Biden, we had a lot of onshoring. And I think that's an ongoing phenomenon. So manufacturing should actually improve over the next few years. Retailing is a very competitive business. A lot of what goes on there is being driven by the fact that people shop online, and that's probably going to continue. And the Amazons of the world, there aren't that many of them, but Amazon certainly is working hard to increase the speed at which they deliver, and that's something that customers really value, and they seem to be able to do that at very competitive prices. So I think retailing is just a very competitive business. It just doesn't mean the economy is doing poorly. It's just the consumers are benefiting from that competition.